Good Yontif, Chag Sameach. Hineni muchan umzuman lekayim mitzvat aseh. Behold, I am ready and prepared to fulfill the mitzvah. Here we are, ready to participate in the obligation, as we heard the shofar continue to tell our story. Who are we? How do we fulfill mitzvot in this world? And this olam hazeh. Heint is das Naya Jahr 5783. Der dein Geburtstag von der Welt. Wir seien da vor Gott, Tfila und Kehila. Wir können nicht tun Jiddisch allein. Heint is for Klal Yisrael. Klal Yisrael is more than a people, a nation, a religion. Klal Yisrael is our very identity. Klal comes from the word kol, referencing all of Israel, the many ways in which Judaism is lived. My opening remarks from the Hebrew language, the Yiddish language, two of the many languages of Klal Yisrael. What defining characteristics does Klal Yisrael have? I'm sure we can name many commonalities. Look here in our beautiful sanctuary, our Sifrei Torahs, our Aron HaKodesh, the Ner Tamid. Today, Rosh Hashanah, the birthday of the world. I think about Klal Yisrael all the time, both as a participant and in the audience of many panels on Judaism and Jewish identity. Many times, panelists are asked to share what they have in common, what unites them. We also have inherent distinctions within Klal Yisrael. What makes me different than any other rabbi? What makes Beit Shira different than any other community? My story. One of the first questions we ask when we meet someone new after asking of their name and inquiring about their professional field is, where are you from? When I encounter this question, I pause. It's not that I don't know where I'm from. I take pride in where I'm from, but it's not what I most identify with. I was born and raised for the first 18 years of my life in Chattanooga, Tennessee. My parents had made their way to this small southern city from the Bronx, from Worcester, Massachusetts, to be part of building a Jewish day school for the growing Jewish community already present. My parents are Jewish educators and pillars of the community to this day. They have devoted their lives to supporting Jewish life. To that end, when we arrived in Chattanooga, my parents intentionally joined all three congregations in town. One affiliated with the Reform, one affiliated with the Conservative, and one affiliated with the Orthodox movement. I was blessed to be raised to feel at home in all of these Jewish houses of worship in my hometown. We had a rotation of sorts. When we went to the Reform congregation, my father instructed my brother and I to wear our yarmulkes, even though that was not the norm of the community. We were also instructed to abide by the way our family practiced kashrut during the food, during when we brought all types of food items. To be careful not to mix the meat and milk. I looked forward to the service since the majority was in English and it was so musical. There was always a choir. The sanctuary had a beautiful organ, and the length of the service always felt considerably shorter than any other synagogue. Attending the Orthodox synagogue was like entering a different world. I remember arriving to this very small Orthodox shul at 7:30, 8 a.m., and staying there what felt like was the entire day. I would enter the sanctuary with my father, my brother, while my mom made her way to the women's section, to the balcony. As a young boy, I always was a little sad that we were separated. The Torah service took a long time as it was a full Kriya. After the Torah, the Haftorah readings were complete, my father allowed my brother and I to run around. It was a small shul, but my brother and I knew every one and every inch of that building. There was a beautiful mikveh. It was a very special Jewish space. I remember that my father would call out our names to come back, and there would be 2 chairs set up on the bima in front of the congregation. Rabbi Hyman, Zichrono Livracha, would drape his talis over my brother and I, and we would conclude the service with Anim Zmiros. I worked at the Fresh Market while in high school. I remember that Rabbi Hyman of blessed memory would come in to do his shopping. I would always approach him and wish him a good day, inquiring if he needs anything. Rabbi Hyman had come to Chattanooga after decades of serving at a congregation in Augusta, Georgia. He would always share some rabbinic wisdom and impress upon me the importance of kashrut. As his eyesight was failing, or so he said, I was blessed to verify some of the items in his grocery cart, and he needed me to help describe the symbols to him. I think back, looking back on this, he knew what he had, but he did this exercise for me to get in the routine of checking my own groceries for kosher certification. When I made Aliyah, Rabbi Hyman was one of my strongest supporters, and he was instrumental in writing anything that I needed and assisted me with the Aliyah process. The conservative synagogue in town was the place that I felt most at home and spent the most time. There were so many kids. I was part of the weekly junior congregation led by a kind and compassionate man named Barry Parker, Zichrono Livracha. And Barry had a talis bag that I can close my eyes and picture today. Now, there wasn't anything particular remarkable about this talis bag. As with most things, it was about what's inside. And in his talis bag were the best lollipops in town. Barry knew how to encourage participation, and he was a really cool grown-up, always entertaining us with tales from his adventures hiking the Appalachian Trail or traveling the globe. The rabbi would also come in each week and share some words about the weekly Torah portion before returning to the main sanctuary. We would have Friday night Shabbat meals with zmirot and delicious food endlessly coming out of the synagogue kitchen. I would wander around the synagogue with my friends, and I was on a first-name basis with all the synagogue staff, especially the kitchen crew. At the conservative shul, the environment was participatory. My parents and the parents of my friends were regularly found on the bima reading Torah, chanting Haftorah, and leading parts of the service. There was a daily minyan, the place I learned how to put on tefillin. Women would wear yarmulkes and talitot. Families would sit together in services. The congregation was actively involved in all aspects of the synagogue. My mom was part of the sisterhood. My dad was part of the men's club. My bubby Dina was a mainstay in the bridge group and in adult education classes. And my brother and I were either in religious school or after our bar and bar mitzvahs, volunteering with the religious school and active in USY. There was something for everyone. The love, Ahavat Yisrael, at my conservative synagogue was palpable. From the flag of Israel to the prevalence of Hebrew in the service, to witnessing from a young age, the adults in the congregation living Jewishly inside and out of the synagogue. I'm so blessed to be comfortable in any Jewish setting. As the Jewish world changed in Chattanooga, not unlike any other city, the Reform and the conservative synagogue memberships began to shrink. The leaderships of the congregation agreed to a joint Sunday school format to ensure the social needs of students were addressed. The Orthodox synagogue ultimately closed its doors and sold its property. What happened? Complacency. The same energy and love my parents and their friends had as my friends and I were growing up was now competing with getting ready to send us off to university, taking care of aging parents, focusing on life outside of the synagogue. We had already been bar and bat mitzvahed. The Jewish journey had run its course. The synagogue did not evolve to meet the changing needs of the community. The synagogues were stuck and kept doing what they had always done. After finishing confirmation, my brother and I left too. We focused on high school sports, secular teenage life. My mom was keenly aware of what was going on. She knew what was happening. She is a proud lifetime member of Hadassah. She knew that she needed to stage an intervention. My brother was set to begin university in Memphis, and she convinced him to defer and take a gap year with Hadassah's Young Judea's year course program in Israel. 2 years later, I also attended year course. Alexander Muss High School in Israel, year course, Nativ, any of these semester or year-long programs are so influential. My mind and my heart were open to Israel and Klal Yisrael. Year course was instrumental in my decision to make Aliyah after the 10 months, give back, and make a lifelong commitment to support the Jewish community. Year course is also responsible for my beshert, for bringing us together. Shira attended year course 2 years after I did. Her roommate met and began dating my roommate, Nathan, also a year course alum, and they set us up on a blind date. Once I completed my IDF service, I eventually made my way to Arizona to attend university with Shira. Shira was still involved with her congregation in Scottsdale, and she encouraged me to come back, to be involved, to teach religious school, to be there with her, to co-teach. It was at Har Zion that I met Rabbi Mark Bisman, who would become my mentor and encouraged me to apply to Ziegler Rabbinical School. Shira and I had a great time teaching 7th grade. We took our students to Los Angeles on their year-end trip to the Skirball, the Museum of Tolerance, the Los Angeles Museum of the Holocaust. We toured the kids around Pico Robertson in West LA and opened their eyes to the variety of kosher cuisines that existed. I was driving this SUV around with 5 kids in the back. In Phoenix, we wanted to experience some food. In Phoenix, we were limited. We just had a kind of kosher Chinese fusion, a pizzeria and a Middle Eastern restaurant. Of course, as a trip bonus, we took the kids to Santa Monica Pier and Six Flags. Being involved in the post-bar and bat mitzvah education experience is important. I was blessed to work under a wonderful religious school director and saw firsthand how vital having an effective religious school director is. After graduating from university and going to Ziegler for the year, Shira accepted a position at the conservative synagogue in walking distance to us. In Los Angeles, the ability to walk anywhere to work is a luxury, especially in Los Angeles. We were busy, and I was assigned a wonderful mentor at the school that I'm still in contact with today. But at that time, the code of conduct for the program when I attended did not permit students to attend interfaith wedding ceremonies. and my brother was getting married. I had a difficult decision to make. This policy, thankfully, has changed in the past 10 years. And I stand before you as a non-RA rabbi, committed to Beit Shirah congregation, affiliated with the conservative movement. While this may have been rare at one point, it is now more common for affiliated congregations to hire rabbis outside of their movement affiliations. I took a year off from rabbinical studies, and Shira and I returned to Arizona to be with her family as her younger brother underwent neurosurgery. Following his recovery, Shira was accepted into graduate school in Pennsylvania, and we moved cross-country with a plan that once we settled, I would continue my rabbinic studies, my journey at the Reconstructionist Rabbinical College. While in Philadelphia, I got involved with teaching religious school once again, and I was forming friendships with my classmates and enjoying my studies. Until spring arrived, we began discussing Yom Ha'atzmaut and Zionism. I'm a proud and unwavering supporter of Israel. Israel is not perfect, but it is our homeland. For me, Judaism is inextricably linked, connected to Israel. For me, it is connected. For all of us, and I am a proud veteran of the IDF, so I made the decision to leave RRC. At this juncture of my rabbinic journey, I returned to Israel to study in yeshiva in the Old City. And it just happened. At the yeshiva, I learned one of my rebbes that his brother, the former Rosh Yeshiva, had left Israel to start a yeshiva in Phoenix, Arizona, where Shira's family lived. I spoke with the brother and relocated to Phoenix, where I was married, my kollel studies. I was at the yeshiva every morning from 6 a.m. for halacha learning, preparing for morning prayers, until late in the evening for the Daf Yomi studies. As I was learning and growing in Torah, I initially thought I would return to one of the brick and mortar institutions to finish my studies. But since I knew that clinical pastoral education, CP, was part of the standard curriculum for a summer unit at all of the traditional rabbinical programs, I thought I'd enroll in a program while in Arizona. Shira's Nana was in and out of the hospital, and the hospital that she was in and out of had a summer CPE intensive program. I was accepted to the program and had a very spiritual and thoughtful director, Reverend Dr. Adriana Convina. After my summer interview, she said, Jesse, we want you to stay for the whole year for residency. So after completing the chaplain residency, Adriana and I sat down about having a meeting about my future. And Adriana informed me that one of her former students was looking to hire a chaplain, and she recommended me for the position. I transitioned from the hospital environment to senior care. And while at the retirement community, I still desired to complete my rabbinic studies. I searched for distance learning options since our lives at this point were in Phoenix, Arizona. And we had just learned after many, many years struggling, just like Hannah, just as we read in our Haftorah, that Shira and I were going to be blessed with a miracle of having a child. Ultimately, I received my ordination from the Jewish Spiritual Leaders Institute. And during my years working as a chaplain in retirement care, the very few but vocal Jewish residents kept telling me over and over, Rabbi, if only our paths had crossed earlier. We love that you're with us, but we're at a different stage of life, and we wish our children and grandchildren were here because you're so outgoing and love being Jewish, and we know that is what is needed today. We don't want you to go, but we know how much you love working in intergenerational environments and intergenerational organizations. That is where you should go, where you best can serve the Jewish people. At JSLI, I reconnected with a former classmate from RRC who now serves a synagogue in Toronto. I made incredible connections, and I'm still close to those I learned with throughout my rabbinic journey. I am still forever learning and growing in Torah. Who is your rabbi? As one of my friends says, labels belong on clothing, not on people. I am a deeply committed Jew dedicated to a tradition, to the rabbinic lens, to the Jewish people, and to the perpetuation of living Jewishly. I've heard before that Judaism doesn't need a building. I'm sure perhaps you've heard this too. This is incorrect. While Judaism is not restricted to a building, when I travel the world over and over and visit Jewish communities, where do I go? Where do you travel when you visit Jewish communities? To the markers of Judaism, the synagogues, the Jewish community centers, the cemeteries, the mikveh, kosher establishments, the Jewish memorials. We need synagogues for gathering, for studying, celebrations, worship, friendship, mourning, grieving, all of the experiences of life. Not only does Judaism need a building, but the building needs us. We need to take care of our building. We need to make sure that our building is equipped to meet our needs now and evolve to meet the needs of our future generations. A few days ago, I was scrolling through my social media feed, and I saw a colleague of mine. He mentioned that he was dreading to spending the high holy days in a synagogue. And while I can attest that this is stressful, the preparations, I am filled with so much joy, so much nachas. Where else would you rather be to bring in 5783? Not just in any synagogue or any service, but here at Beit Shirah, our house of song. Many of you here are founding members or connected to founding members. Look around our campus, and you will see the names of individuals and families that have invested in Beit Shirah. When we open our Holy Ark and look at the Sifrei Torahs dressed in their Rosh Hashanah best, we see the names of supporters and sustainers. Look around you. This is our sacred space. Again, I'm so blessed with my family also here. My three girls, Raina, Nava, and Ziva, they feel at home. We build these things, as we mentioned, as Richie Rosengarten just mentioned, as our vice president mentioned, we build for our future. I look forward and anticipate this time of year so much. I'm honored to be here at Beit Shirah. As you will learn next week as we get ready for Yom Kippur, it's my favorite time of year. But we celebrate today. And not only is today my Bashirt's birthday, happy birthday, Yom Holedet Sameach, but it is the birthday of the world. We are at the beginning of a new year for us all and for all of Klal Yisrael. Shana Tova Umituka Tikatevu V'Tichatemu. A good gebench yor. May we be signed and sealed in the book of life. Now, when we think about our faith is informed through this song.